In 2009, we're probably going to have an enormous deficit. It's going to be unprecedented. It could well be over $1 trillion. We already are projecting something like $600 billion for next year before all the bad stuff happened, before it was clear that we were in such a deep recession, before all the bailout packages, and before any kind of a stimulus was added to the mix. So we should all be prepared for a very large deficit. Could be as much as 7% of GDP. It's going to add very greatly to the national debt. But it's the right thing to do. Economists like me really don't worry about deficits during a recessionary period. We believe that that's what's needed to kickstart the economy again. The problem will be the burden that we're leaving for the future and the much larger deficits that also exist once the recession is over. And that long-term deficit is being driven by the aging of the population and rising healthcare costs. And that's what we should be worried about, and we should start worrying about it now because it's upon us, and we need to start thinking about how to fix the problem, even if we phase it in gradually. There's absolutely no political courage to take on either Social Security or Medicare. And so I am not naive enough to think it's going to happen anytime soon. But this is where the big dollars are, and there is no other way to get the budget under control. We do need to raise revenues. And we do need to scrub the regular discretionary spending, the annually appropriated spending, including for defense that the government does. But we're not going to be able to do it all. Plug the very large hole we have in the long-term budget by one of those means alone. We're going to have to do it all. In other words, everything has to be on the table, reining in entitlements, raising revenues, and scrubbing the rest of the budget. I think that the big social insurance programs like Medicare and Social Security were put in place at a very different time in this country's history. Basically, back in the 1930s or the 1960s when Medicare came in, the elderly were one of the poorer segments of the population. That's not true any longer. The poverty rates amongst the elderly are now much lower than they are amongst the working age population and their children. Also, incomes of the elderly have grown more rapidly than the incomes of working age families. Basically have had stagnant wages recently for working age families. So for all kinds of reasons, I think we do need to revise what I call the intergenerational contract and gradually over time reallocate more resources to younger Americans, paying for it with some sacrifice on the part of seniors. I'm a senior myself, so I can talk about this. But I think a country that gives priority to its old over its young doesn't have much of a future.